are going to be going through the whole entire process of writing some cool chord progressions and then soloing over them so that you guys can actually see more of the actual writing process that goes into creating music and not just soloing over some random backing track or random song, but what if I want to create something from scratch and actually even record it too? So we're going to be looking a little bit of recording as well here. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing first that you need to do if you're going to write a chord progression, of course, people go through this in different ways, but what I like to do is I like to pick a key. So that way I know I can pick a key and pick different chords out of it that I know are all going to sound good together. We're going to go ahead and pick the key of E major. You need to know the different chords that are in keys. I've talked about this a lot in videos, and if you really want to learn it the best way possible, then make sure you head on over to Jamsville.com and check out the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course. That way you can learn how to thoroughly understand and navigate any key that you want. I'm going to list out all of the different chords that we can find in E major, and with the knowledge that they're all from the same key, okay, and therefore they're all going to sound good together, then I can basically just pick random chords, and I know that they're probably going to sound good. So in the key of E major, the 1 chord is going to be an E chord, of course, and for those of you familiar, it's good to number the chords. This helps us keep consistency between keys. So then our 2 chord is going to be F sharp minor. Our 3 chord is going to be G sharp minor. And then our 4 chord is going to be A major. So then we have B, that's going to be our 5 chord. And then we have C sharp minor is our 6 chord, and then our 7 chord is going to be D sharp diminished. That's a little diminished sign there, okay? So out of all the chords, by the way, in a major key, the one that gets used the least is going to be that 7 chord, the diminished chord, okay? And that's for a number of reasons. We're not really going to get into that right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick a couple of these chords. So I'm going to go ahead and start with C sharp minor, okay, which is the 6th chord. Okay, C sharp minor is a good chord to start on. The 6th chord is always a good chord to start on. One mistake that people make a lot, it's not really a mistake, but it's just something that everybody does in the beginning, is they always go, okay, I'm going to play a chord progression, let me start the 1 chord. Don't start on the 1 chord if you want to make it sound a little bit more sophisticated. Either save the 1 chord for later, or even more sophisticated in some ways, I think, is what if you just never play the 1 chord? You have all these other chords in the key. You don't have to play an E major chord. That happens plenty of times, okay? But at the very least, don't put it first, okay? I know it's number 1. We think, oh, it's got to be first. It's number 1. And by the way, we're going to be using bar chords mainly for this. I know there's lots of different ways to play these different chords, but for example, this is the C sharp minor bar chord that I'm playing. You would include this, but a lot of times I don't include that top note over there. So I just want to make that clear. So that's a minor bar chord starting from the 5th string, okay? And then by the way, we're also going to be using a few other shapes. I'll cover those when we get there. But for example, the major bar chord shape would be like this, but with this note here, and you actually have to bar down these 3 notes kind of like this. So you got to actually bar that with this finger. So that chord is not going to be in our key right now, but I'm just showing you the shapes we're using. So we got our minor shape, and then we have our major shape. Those are from the 5th string, of course, if you're not familiar with those. If you are familiar with those, I'm sorry that I just bored you with that. Okay, so we're going to play C sharp minor. And then, so we can just pick another random chord. We could play F sharp minor, we could play G sharp minor, we could play A, we could play B, we could play E. I'm going to go ahead and actually pick B for the next chord. Okay, this is a very cool chord progression that I like the sound of. There's a lot of different ways of thinking about it. We're going to try to keep it simple for right now. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and play the 6 chord and the 5 chord. So actually, believe it or not, just that alone, okay, that could be our chord progression. We could just go like this: C sharp minor, B. Not a bad sounding chord progression at all. That happens a ton of times in a lot of songs. There's actually a song that I'm currently working on releasing in a little bit that uses that chord progression a lot. And it's just it's very simple. You got a minor chord and then go down a whole step and play that major chord. There's so many different ways that we could go about this. Like, for example, we could go C sharp minor, B, back to C sharp minor again, and then play a different chord after that, for example, okay? For example, what if we pick C sharp minor, B, and back to C sharp minor, and maybe like F sharp minor? That might be interesting. Let's actually go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go C sharp minor 6, B5, back to C sharp minor. So even though it's a 4 chord loop, we don't have to have 4 different chords. Okay, we can actually repeat one of the chords in 2 different places. So we get the 6th chord again, and then let's actually go down to F sharp minor, which is the 2 chord. Let me go ahead and show you, by the way, just in case you're watching, you don't know what I'm doing there with the F sharp minor. So I'm gonna go ahead and play a 6-string root bar chord here. So that's our F sharp minor bar chord. Okay, so if we're ever gonna play a minor chord starting from the 6th string, we're gonna use that shape. And then of course, if we're gonna play a major chord, it would be this shape. Okay, so with that being said, let's actually go ahead and lay down this chord progression. And then actually, you can't see it right there, but I got my bass here, and we're gonna go ahead and also lay down some bass parts on this as well. Okay, so those of you who are familiar, this is a program called Logic, and this is what I primarily use to actually make these videos and also to record my music that I work on. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and record in here. So let's go ahead, and I have already set up a drum loop here. It's this kind of sloppy sounding drum loop, but I kind of like it. So let's listen to it really quick. So I'll probably play something like this, like. Nice and slow. Something like that. So I just want to kind of get it in my head what's going to be the idea before I actually go ahead and record it. So let's go ahead. We're going to switch to this track. This is going to be our rhythm guitar track here, all right? And let's see if I can get this thing recorded. Okay, cool. So whenever I'm recording, by the way, and I'm trying to loop something, I like to just play into the next repetition, because sometimes the end of a loop can get a little bit messed up if you try to cut it off before the end of the repetition here. So, and now we're actually going to go ahead and lay down a bass line, because we need a bass line here. So, got my trusty old bass over here. This is going to be the first time that I have played bass on the channel. Okay, cool. Let's hear that one. I think that one felt a lot better. And now we're ready to start soloing over the thing. Okay, so, I mean, we could do any number of things, guys, with this. Now, once you got a groove, you got a chord progression going, you could be easily writing a song over it. I could start thinking of something to sing. We're not going to get into songwriting at the moment. We'll keep it focused on soloing. If you want me to do another stream or video where we actually go ahead and start writing a song here in Logic, make sure you go ahead and drop a comment letting me know if that's something that you want to see. I definitely think it would be a cool idea. So we're going to go ahead and go back now, and let's talk about soloing over this thing, okay? So, first of all, we know it's in the key of E major, even though... Okay, there's no E major chord. Remember I talked about that? That it's really cool sometimes if you don't use an E major chord, okay? So the reason actually that I would know that this chord progression is in the key of E major, if somebody just, gave this to me, or I heard it in a song and I didn't have all this information that I presented you guys with before I actually wrote this, the way that I would know it's in the key of E major is very simple. Well, because this is the only key that I can find all of these chords in. There's no other key that has C sharp minor, B, and F sharp minor in them. We could very easily just say, okay, step number one would be, can I play E major pentatonic / C sharp minor pentatonic? By the way, both of those are literally the exact same things. If you want to learn these things really, really well, okay? Make sure you head on over to Jamsville.com, pick up the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course so you can learn how to figure out whatever key you want over the whole entire neck, all the chords in the key, and where all the notes are so that you can solo over stuff. Let's just see what kind of stuff I can come up with if I just play over this thing with pentatonic scale. And I'm not going to think of anything else. There's lots of other things that we can think about, but let's just see what's possible with just pentatonic scale. There's a lot of stuff that you can get at it just pentatonic scale. I mean, I'm kind of ignoring the chords. There's other things that we're going to talk about in a second, but there's your pentatonic scale. By the way, if you notice, there are some times there where I was playing up and down one string, which really, really allows you to transition between positions and not kind of feel like you're stuck in the same place. So it's very, very useful to know what the actual names of the notes are in the scale that we're playing so that you can actually go ahead and do that, go over one string. So let's just write out here so you know. So the E major pentatonic scale has E, it has F sharp, it has G sharp. It doesn't have A. A is normally in the major scale, but it has B, and then it has C sharp. So just those notes, okay? So it's very important when you're practicing this stuff to go ahead and be able to go and look at the actual names of the notes, so that way you can say, oh, for example, here, if we look at the third string, the third string, we have G sharp, and then we have B, and then we have C sharp, and then E, and F sharp, and G sharp, right? So that's so dude, when I learned how to play like that, it just like instantaneously got me unstuck from being in the box. And that's why in the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course, that's why we actually go ahead and learn the notes on the guitar neck one string at a time, so that you're just thinking that way, like right off the bat, instead of thinking, okay, let's learn our pentatonic first and be stuck in one box. By the way, there was one thing that I played there. There was a video that I made a couple weeks ago, 7 awesome pentatonic licks in the key of E major. I swear I didn't do it on purpose to make them in the key of E major, where we're also playing the key of E here. It's just a cool key to play in. But if you want to get even better at like actually applying the stuff, once you've learned all these pentatonic patterns, then you got to learn some vocabulary, okay? So like I played a little idea that I remember was from one of those licks. Like, this is super cool because it's automatically transferring over a whole bunch of positions, and it just teaches you new ways of actually combining the same notes, right? We're going to talk about how would I also play some other stuff over this chord progression, okay? So first of all, I can use the whole entire E major scale. So let's go ahead and write that out. So we wrote E major pentatonic before. Remember the formula, by the way, for major pentatonic is 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So you take any key that you're working in, you take the 1, 2, 3, the 5, and the 6, and then that's going to give you the major pentatonic version. You're basically just cutting out the 4 and the 7. But let's actually add in the 4 and the 7 and see what happens with that. Maybe there's going to be some problems that pop up. Who knows? So now we just added a whole bunch of A's and we added a whole bunch of D sharps. So if you notice, the A's are 1/2 step above the G sharps. So they are in the 3rd string, 1/2 step above G sharp. And remember, G sharp is the 3rd. So that 3rd note, the 4th is a 1/2 step above it. Always, doesn't matter what key it is. And then also the 7th, D sharp, which we didn't have before, that one is a 1/2 step below the root. Okay, so if you know where your E's are, your roots in that key, that's very important. So let's go ahead now. Let's see what it sounds like if I go ahead and solo. I'm going to try to use the whole entire E major scale. Not all the time, okay? That's, by the way, classic mistake that people make when they are trying to use the major scale is they think, I got to use all the notes in the major scale all the time. Well, guess what? That's what actually makes you sound like you're running a scale, because you're trying to use all the notes all the time instead of like thinking, oh, well, what if I just pick like these 3 notes here, A, C sharp, and D? Or what if I pick 2 notes and make smaller musical ideas? But I will eventually use all the notes, and then I'll also allow myself to use the major pentatonic scale, okay? So let's see what that's gonna sound like. Notice I'm just using 3 notes, 4 notes here. Notice how I'm trying to make clear musical ideas. I'm trying to, like 2 notes back and forth. Okay, cool. So now I have access to a few more different sounds. I was still playing a little bit of pentatonic there at times, but adding in those 2 extra notes gave me access to some other colors. By the way, one thing I love about playing the full entire major scale is actually going ahead and starting to work on some of these bends here. So if you might have heard that this D sharp here on the 2nd string, I bent that up to D. Sorry, to E, not to D. D, you can't bend down. You have to bend up. That's such a cool sound when you bend the 7th of the key up to the root. Because that note already kind of wants to go up. It wants to go doo-doo, bum. But then if you want to sound really good, practice all the bends in the key. So say, okay, I'm going to take this E here. I hope you're seeing this on the 2nd string. I'm going to take that E and I'm going to bend it up to F sharp. So you play the E. Here's the F sharp. So I got to make it sound like that. And then go to the next note. F sharp, bend it up to G. G sharp, bend it up to A. Notice how I play the 2 notes before. Why? Because I want to get it in my head. I need to make sure that I hear da, da. I can't sing that high. Da, da, This is a great ear training exercise, by the way. You have to have good ears to be able to bend competently. So A going up to B. Also, it helps more when you're actually playing over the track. Let's actually put the track while I'm doing this. Because they can actually hear if the bend's in tune. So. This one sounds great. The C sharp up to the D sharp. Everybody always just plays like one bend in the pentatonic scale, but it's much more rare for you to see people who know all of their bends in the major scale, okay? Last thing that we're going to talk about is that we're going to now play triads over the chord progression. So this is the thing that really starts to take you to the next level. It teaches us what notes are going to sound good on each chord. So triads are just the 3 notes that basically comprise each of the chords in the progression. So remember, we had C sharp minor, we had B, we had C sharp minor, we had F sharp minor. So really, we only need to find out 3 different triads to be able to utterly annihilate this chord progression, okay? So let's write out those chords, and then we're going to figure out what the notes in each triad are, and then we'll pick them out, actually, from the whole entire E major scale, which is listed on the screen there. How do we figure out what the notes are in each triad? It's very simple, guys. Every single one of these chords is built in thirds, okay? So you start on the root note of the chord, which is the note that the chord is named after, and then you skip a note and you skip another note. And that gives you all the notes that are in a chord. So for example, you see we have all the notes listed above here, right? So C sharp minor. First of all, we know there's a C sharp in the chord. That's the root of the chord because it's called C sharp, okay? Pretty easy, right? So we're going to skip D sharp. We don't want the note that's right next to it. And then I know that we're at the end here, but the whole thing repeats. So we're going to skip D sharp. We're going to take E. So we have C sharp. We have E. And now we're just going to skip one more note and take the next one after that, and then that's the whole thing. So E, we skip F sharp, and we're going to take G sharp. And that's the notes that are in a C sharp minor chord. You know what else is 3 letters that you learned when you're in kindergarten? Cat and dog. Those are 3-letter words. You learn how to spell them. If you could spell those things, you can spell out triads. Okay, so B, we're going to do the same thing. So I know that we want B. Let's actually just go ahead and put like a dot in it. So we're going to take B. We're going to skip C sharp. We're going to take D sharp. And then we're going to skip E. We're circling back here. We're going to skip E, though. And we're going to take F sharp. So B, D, F sharp. See that? We start on the rooted chord, skip a note, take that one, and then skip another one. Take that one. So D sharp. I think I might have said D earlier. That would be a mistake. And F sharp. I'm a pretty big stickler about you got to make sure that you say sharp and all that stuff, because if I play D natural, it's not going to sound good. That's going to be a problem if I play D natural. So you need to pay attention to that stuff. Okay, so we're already 2/3 of the way. Is this taking a long time? No. It's been maybe 2 minutes since we started doing it. So let's figure out the F sharp minor chord, okay? So F sharp minor, well, we're going to start on F sharp, and we're going to skip the note next to it. We're going to take A, and then we're going to skip the note next to that. So we skip this, took this one, skip this one, and then take this one. So if F sharp, A, and C sharp. That's it, guys. That is all the information that we need to know in order to now really, 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 really start like destroying this chord progression, okay? So now, first of all, we can go to our full scale here, and let's find the C sharp minor chord, because that's the one that happens twice, right? The chord progression C sharp minor, B, back to C sharp minor, and then F sharp. So here is C sharp, E, G sharp. So we're not going to go through every single one that exists on the neck, because that's a whole thing that you have to study. It takes a lot of practice to be able to actually find every single one of them on the neck. But that's okay. You don't need to be overwhelmed by that. Let's just find one triad for each of the chords. Okay, that's it. Let's find one for right now so that we can at least start getting used to the idea of being able to play with triads and be able to actually pick out these notes and land on them when the chords change. That's the thing that lets us sound really cool, is that when a C sharp minor chord hits, I'm going to actually play it on any of those notes. There's other ones that are in the neck, and again, that's what I talked about, that it takes a little bit longer to learn every single last one of them, okay? If you want to learn every single last one of them, you really want to master the fretboard, you want to learn all your triads all over the neck so that you can actually do this instantaneously in any key over any chord, then the only way to do that, not the only way, but the best way to do that is to go to Jamsville.com and pick up the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course, where I show you how to do that. It takes some time, but it's super duper worth it if you learn how to do that, okay? So let's pick, there's our C sharp minor, there's our C sharp, E, and our G. What about the B chord? We figured out that was B, D sharp, and F sharp. Well, guess what, actually? This one's easy because, let me actually write this next to here. So you also do have to keep in mind the chord numbers. So that C sharp minor was 6, the B is 5, and then this is the 2 chord in the key. So automatically, whenever I'm going from the 6 to the 5, I just know that I go back a step in the key. So for example, look. The root was C sharp before. Look, the note right behind it on the same string is B. I had E before. Look, I go back one note. That's my D sharp. I had G sharp before. Go back one note. There's my F sharp. So actually right here, there's my B major chord. So I had this. Here's my C sharp minor. Here's my B major. So let's actually just forget about the F sharp minor for a second. Let's just see what we can do with that, okay? I will actually just not play in the F sharp minor chord for right now. Not gonna play there. So you see right there, like that sounds really cool. Even just, you're not gonna come up with that by accident, guys. That's and you hear the Eagles, you know, the end of Hotel California. That's all triads. If you don't know your triads, you're not going to play anything like this. You're just going to continue sounding like you're running scales, okay? So that's the cool thing, by the way, is when we solo with triads, we don't sound like we're running scales. Why? Because, well, we're not running scales. We're playing chords. So how can you sound like you're running a scale if you're not running a scale? Anyway, okay, so let's figure out that last one. F sharp minor, we figured out that was F sharp, A, and C sharp. So now let's see where we can find those notes, okay? So let's actually try to not move like super far away, because we could actually take, if we know this is a minor chord here, C sharp minor, well, our just common sense on guitar would tell us we can actually play all the way up here. Here's an F sharp minor. Same shape. You see that? F sharp, A, C sharp. And notice how I'm picking this out of the whole scale, right? It's really important to be able to see it in context, because then you can see the other notes that are around it and good things happen. You can start mixing it in with just knowing the scale, knowing the pentatonic scale. But anyway, so let's go ahead and let's actually see if we can stay in the same area of the fretboard, okay? So this is going to require us to maybe think slightly differently. We're actually going to play what's called an inversion. It sounds crazy, but it's not. It just means that we're not going to start with F sharp, okay? Actually, what we're going to do is we'll start with C sharp here. So like, check this out. Here's our C sharp minor that we figured out. Here's our B major we figured out. Look, there's a C sharp, and then there's an F sharp here right on top of it. And then there's actually an A right here. Look, all in the same fret. Oh, and of course, by the way, if you remember from our F sharp minor bar chord, that's actually just part of that F sharp minor bar chord. So that's it. By the way, if you're really a student, you notice there's an A up there too. Let's add that. So now we have these three shapes. We have this C sharp here. Boom, boom, boom. We have that's the C sharp minor. We have B major here. And then we have F sharp minor all in the second fret. There's our C sharp minor. Then we're going to add, here's our B major. We're just going to leave those all there. And then here's our F sharp minor. So now using just those notes, I'm going to solo over the track that we just made. Of course, I'm only sticking in one area of the fretboard, not even an area, just a little tiny snippet there, right? Like the half of an area of the fretboard. I'm not using all of the notes that are possible, but this is why you got to practice them all over the entire neck. Let's go ahead and go, we'll put back on the thing. So if you want to, you're watching this, go ahead and pause here and see if you can find all of those triads that we listed out right there in the lower left-hand corner. See if you can actually find them on the neck. See if you can find all the C sharps, E's, and G's. If you can do that, gee, you're going to get a whole heck of a lot better at guitar and a whole heck of a lot better at soloing. So, and the best way is going to be, again, go ahead and pick up the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course, where I show you step by step how to do it in all keys so that you can know all these things and be able to access them every time you need. All right, so that's what I'm going to leave. That's my solo that I'm going to leave there, hitting Command S, and that is it, guys. Make sure you head on over to Jamsville.com and pick up the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course. That's the best way, in my opinion, to learn all this stuff, learn your triads all over the neck, learn your scales all over the neck, so that when you go to solo, you can find all these things very, very, very quickly. Also, make sure you head on over to Jamsville merch store, pick yourself up a Jamsville t-shirt. I love this freaking t-shirt. I wear it all the time. It fits super comfortably. I'm obsessed with t-shirts that fit well. I don't like things that don't fit well. So it fits really well, and I'm really happy with it. Check out my music. I have a song. I have 2 songs on Spotify. I'm working on my 3rd song, which should be done in the next couple of months here. Got a lot of things going on, so it's getting tough. But my song, My Divine, type in Adam Paul on Spotify. It's also in the description of this stream. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for other videos or streams that you guys want to see, make sure you drop them down in the comments below, and just say hi. You guys are awesome, and really appreciate you guys watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, by the way, and until next time, listen, learn, and jam.